Happy Halloween! Welcome to Holland Bloorview Live. I love all the costumes, the color, lots of black too, lots of darkness for Halloween. My name is Bob. And I will be your host for Holland Bloorview Live today. It's actually funny. I've had lots of different reactions. Are you Tina Turner? Are you Mick Jagger? I'm modeling myself after Bon Jovi. That's the kind of I'm going for today. My name is Stuart Wong, and I'll be your host today for Holland Bloorview Live, where it's our chance to talk about the amazing care that takes place across the hospital 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in so many different dimensions. And our goal, as always, is to talk about some of the important initiatives that are taking place across the hospital, and also a chance for us to get to know each other as people and about the work that makes Holland Bloorview so special. We all play a role in providing care across the hospital in its many dimensions, and the purpose of today and of Holland Bloorview Live is to bring life to that, to animate that in different ways, and to hear from each other and to get to know each other. One of the things that we like to do is to talk about some of the organizational highlights. So when we last met, we had our summer edition of Holland Bloorview Live, and now we're having our first ever Halloween edition. And in that time, so many different things have taken place, so many accomplishments, so much mission delivery that makes Holland Bloorview so amazing. And it's always hard for the team to select a few highlights, but here we go. We selected a couple. At the top here, we have a picture of us winning an award at the Canadian Association of Pediatric Health Centers for organizational leadership. So this is an award that was just given out in Edmonton and recognized by our peers for the amazing leadership we had in developing the training program for education and healthcare leaders across Ontario. So it's a real connected system piece where we had a chance to showcase our expertise in the provision of unintended care in the form of a training session. So that was an accomplishment from just last week. We also this past summer launched Dear Everybody. We're going to hear a little bit more about that from one of our guests later on, but Dear Everybody is our social justice campaign, and it's come alive in so many different ways in terms of media stories, in terms of being at each center, and hopefully I've seen it in different places, both internally and externally, but really part of our modeling social change, part of that strategy as part of No Boundaries. We also have you may have, hopefully you didn't miss this. It's hard to miss last week. We had 74 large people at the hospital through an Toronto Argonauts visit here at the hospital, bringing so much joy to our kids and as well as to our staff. I saw lots of people geared up in their Argos gear, but it was just a fantastic event where for the first time ever, all of the Toronto Argonauts visited a healthcare center, and it was actually the first for Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment of all their sports properties. This is the first time where they brought out the whole contingent out to one place, so it was a fantastic success and a real tribute to the organizational prowess of the team that put it all together to make it happen. And the Argos were so impressed, they said this is going to be an annual thing, so we hope to hold them to that and see more large people that we can look up to when they visit us. And then to my right, we always like to talk about the expertise that we can share, the depth of the experience, and perspective that we can provide in different dimensions. So we've gotten lots of media coverage in the last little bit on CTV News, on the Toronto Star, Globe and Mail, AM 640. And what's great beyond the kind of high-profile outlets that we are profiled in is the breadth of things that we at Holland Bloorview are able to talk about. So everything from inclusion, diversity. Oh, I'm setting more baritone there, like it. It's my spooky Halloween voice. Everything from employment to inclusion, diversity, research, care that we provide. So again, so much amazing work is happening in different ways, and we're always looking for a way to tell that story. And we have a really strong media relations program. So if you have a story to tell and you're interested in telling it, you think that there's something that the world should know about Holland Bloorview, you can talk to Ashley Cruz. Is she here? She's not here, but you can. She's working on a media story. That's great. That's exactly what she should be doing. But you can email hashtag HB Media Relations if you want to reach out and you think that there's something that the world should know about. So these are all things that are fantastic, things that we've accomplished over the last few months, and there will be many more as each and every time we'll select a few of these highlights to bring to Holland Bloorview Live. So our next slide is part of our tradition here at Holland Bloorview Live is to talk about and welcome our new staff. So since we last met, we have 64 people who have joined the Holland Bloorview family. If you're new, first time at Holland Bloorview Live, maybe you could take a stand and receive a warm welcome of applause, warm round of applause. And if you are new, this is the new dress code. Teased up hair, lots of denim. And so, with that welcome out of the way, I just want to say welcome and settle in. We've got an amazing show where we're going to hear from different members of the Holland Bloorview family to shed light on the different things that we do and the excellence that takes place in so many different dimensions, both in the hospital, but also at our 5 off-site locations, the nursery schools, our centralized equipment pool, there's 5 of us, 5 different places where all of this care takes place. So thank you to all of you. And if you happen to be watching live and you're in the room, welcome. But also some of you might be watching on YouTube. We're streaming live, so some of you might be at your offices. So I want to always say hi to you. And if you're watching it post-event, maybe you're in your pajamas, sitting in the bedroom watching Holland Bloorview Live. Again, welcome. We do this in this format because we know that not everyone can carve out this particular hour on this particular day to hear about all the things that are happening. So we make sure we build it so that you can hear about it no matter where you are or at the time that you can access it. Okay, so now's the time to welcome our first guest. This is a segment that we call The View, and The View is a chance for us to bring up a member of senior management to talk about the things that are happening organizationally. We like to hear about what's happening within that specific portfolio, but also to talk about the things that are that we all need to know about. And our guest for today is Marilyn Ballantyne. She's our Chief Nursing Executive.
Voice kept saying, son, stick to your vision, keep the composition. Seen a lot of shame in the game, seen a lot of pain with the fame. Seen a lot of highs and lows, but that's just the real life goes.
Nice hat. Our heads are very big in this frame, I guess. So the music, Maestro Fresh West, Stick to Your Vision, that song speaks to you, and we've talked a little bit about this.
The song, yeah, Maestro really speaks to me because, no, seriously, because he's a rapper, he's a producer, he's an actor, he's an advocate, and he's real, and he integrates rap music, integrates symphony music, integrates the Guess Who, all into one song.
And he sticks to the vision, which is what you and your team are doing.
Yeah, because I find it really inspiring.
Yes.
I love that song.
Marilyn, so I want to learn a little bit about you. So you've been here for about 4 years, and we've got an amazing photo of you up here. I want to hear a little bit about your role as Chief Nurse Executive, your background, how you got here.
Okay. So for those who don't know me, I'm sharing 2 pictures that mean a lot to me. I'm a pediatric nurse practitioner by background. I've worked in the NICU, the pediatric ICU, neonatal follow-up and complex care, 5 hospitals, 3 provinces, and I had one super fun fact for people to know is 3 years I worked as a neonatal transport nurse in northern Alberta, stabilizing and picking up high-risk infants with an RT and bringing them back to the hospital in Edmonton. So that was a pretty cool job.
Cool.
So that first picture on the right, I know it's a bit of a hazy caption, but it actually says Patient of the Week. And it's an old Polaroid of me hooked up to a cardiac monitor on a night shift in the unit in Edmonton very early in my career, and you can see I haven't aged one bit. And we were actually, I was hooked up to the monitor because we were learning how to interpret ECGs in the night. So we decided the best way to interpret ECGs was to hook up ourselves and learn from each other, and I thought that was really, we were innovative even then.
I like it, I love it.
Yeah. And the second picture is a picture that was drawn by a child that I had cared for, and I have this posted on my bulletin board at home because this picture is so deeply meaningful to me. A really cool child, and this child, Joyce, taught me the absolute what's important in life, and actually that even children at an incredibly young age, which she was at this point, have super wisdom, talent, and incredible superpowers, and it keeps me real, and I actually look at that picture every day.
Awesome. That's
yeah.
a nice piece of inspiration.
She was just really a fabulous kid. I learned a lot from her. And continue to. She wants to be a pediatrician. Isn't that cool?
That's cool.
I thought that was really cool. I thought she should be a pediatric nurse practitioner. But it's okay. Or maybe an OT, but I'm okay that she picked
not
healthcare.
biased there. Right?
Yeah.
Fair enough. Tell me about your role, Marilyn.
So my role at Holland Bloorview is really oversight for nursing practice and strategic leadership of nursing. So what does that mean in a practical kind of way? So it means standards of practice, it means professional development, it means growing leaders, the Nursing Practice Council, and again, well, what does that really mean? So let me give you a practical example. One of the things that you probably saw in Holland Bloorview Connect today is a safety award around NG tubes.
Yes.
So it's something you can relate to. So these are children with complex needs, usually infants who have nasogastric tubes, and that's one of the standards that we developed last year around how to improve the placement, the checking, the safety for kids and families. There's another great example of another kind of tube, a GJ tube, or gastrostomy jejunal tube, where we developed a standard of care and partnered with families around an emergency toolkit that developed at the bedside and goes home with families. And what's beautiful about all of the work that we've been leading is that it's creating quality of care across nurses and across sick kids and Holland Bloorview and home, which I'm really proud of the things that we've grown. And I reflected on it last night, and I discovered, because I like to do math, is that we actually created 7 new nursing practices, standards, or directives every single month last year in response to the changes in the children and the things that they needed for best possible care. So it tells you how much the work is important and present, and the sheer volume of importance we need to pay attention to the care practices that we have.
Right. So care always being enhanced and delivered in a way that's sound and in the best interest of our clients.
Yeah.
And there's a strong academic backing to it as well.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Across the system and connecting the system. With that last question, are you asking me about the academic of that work or my own
your
academic
academics,
work?
yeah.
That's nice. Thanks, Stuart. So my own academic work, because 40% of my job is actually as a researcher in addition to being a chief nurse, and so that's all about Discover for Action. So I've actually got 2 big projects going. One is supporting parents whose children's lives started in acute care and understanding their transition journey. So it's really about transition to rehab or transition to rehabilitation or Holland Bloorview, for example. The other big research project that I'm super passionate about is a big project across 2 universities and 2 hospitals that's transforming nurses' work life with a strength-based leadership lens. Some people will remember we did videos on Soder last year, capturing the moment-to-momentness of care and how important it is to have leadership that promotes the best possible care. So those are the 2 research projects that I'm involved in and leading.
Right. So, and that's not even the last dimension. The last dimension is of your job is also you have a connecting the system role as well, in addition to the academic and care. So tell me a little bit about that, and then I want to hear a little bit about nursing practice as well. So tell me about connecting the system.
Yeah, so the connecting the system is really, all of my work is really grounded in children with complexity, so children with medical complexity. So it's sitting at the provincial table for complex care. Kids Ontario, sitting at the table between sick kids and Holland Bloorview to improve transitions for complex children. Also the big new connected care education program, which is standardizing education across sick kids, Holland Bloorview, the whole TC LIN for home providers. No matter where a family goes, the impact that they would see is that it all looks the same. And that's what we want, a one-team approach. Yeah.
Awesome. So you're busy.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a little bit more about nursing practice and your, tell me about nursing practice at Holland Bloorview specifically.
So nursing at Holland Bloorview is super specialized and small and mighty. We have approximately 160 nurses. And where does that fit in the big system of nurses? Well, that's 0.1% of all of the nurses in Ontario, in the whole province. So we are such a small niche specialized group, so having attention on that, recruitment, retention, being present everywhere that families go, inpatients, outpatients, dental, infection control, sorry, my hat's out of control, transitions, education, there's a nurse kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
And we have 3 different types of nurses at Holland Bloorview, which is really important because it's all around education preparation and the right nurse with the right qualifications in the right place at the right time. So we have registered practical nurses, registered nurses, and we have 7 nurse practitioners at Holland Bloorview, which is truly special because it's been very impactful to have that diversity in our tiny little workforce that's so important. Yeah.
It's amazing work and doing such impactful work. And what I love about care at Holland Bloorview is the collaborative nature of it. And I know
absolutely, it's so interprofessional. It's so with families. It's so with kids. It's when I think about the work that I'm doing, it's just enabling everybody.
Yeah.
And
within our strategic plan, we talk about personalizing pathways. So maybe you can talk about that collaborative nature and how that connects to personalizing pathways.
Yeah, with personalized pathways, that really is our goal, right? All the foundational things I talked about are really to personalize pathways. And so I'll just think of 2 simple examples. There's, like, as I said, hundreds of examples, but I think the 2 simple examples that are really current in my mind is on the inpatient unit, the family communication whiteboards that for me has created a better experience for families, it's created a better experience for nurses, it's created a better experience for the whole interprofessional team. We feel that it's so strength-based and so positive, and it's complemented the medical story so nicely.
Right.
On the outpatient area, there's a beautiful project where nurses are doing first point of contact phone calls in a pilot right now, which is creating them with connections and support much, much earlier. So those are just 2 examples. There's, that are really personalizing pathways, and we're learning as we go.
Thank you.
Right, it's really dynamic.
I'm going to bridge to, thank you for all that insight. I think that's fantastic insight into the work that takes place every single day. Also, I want to talk about your role in senior management. So there's lots of things happening in the organization. What are some of the things that our teams should be aware of organizationally?
There's a lot going on. The fall is always busy, and I think it's budget time.
Yeah.
So it's budget season, and all of the teams are working really hard on their budgets and aligning with strategic plan and goals and optimization. So that's a big priority.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that's ever present on my mind, because I had my flu shot yesterday, was it's flu season. Did you?
I did.
Oh, how are you, Stuart?
I'm good. I'm good.
You're good?
I'm
you feel
a little sore,
okay?
but yeah. The Smarties helped. The Smarties they gave me
and
helped.
the nurse was excellent?
Yes, she was.
It is flu season. We do have flu clinics here until the end of November. It's so important, and we all value our kids and families so much, and each other as teams. So really encouraging everybody to get their flu shot. And and we have 2 new cards for kids and families. We have cards for them to be germ fighters and protect themselves while they're here, and we have cards for them to take home on the weekends. So that's a really nice addition.
A fun takeaway, yeah.
So, yeah.
And the last one maybe we can touch on is cannabis. Cannabis has been big in the news, and we've done a couple different things on that front.
Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. That's a really great question, because when I think about cannabis, I think about the 2 things that are going on in cannabis. So we had already done a tremendous amount of work on medical cannabis, and we had a team from Holland Bloorview who led that, Sonia, Jeff, Tamara, Nathan, Kim, who just did amazing work on figuring out. But we have now, since the middle of October, the recreational cannabis. Yeah. And so that's brought some really rich conversations across the organization, and I would encourage you to go to Holland Bloorview Connect and look at the many new policies, most importantly the Fit to Work policy, which is important to think about and to ensure that we are all fit to work and that recreational cannabis is not allowed. Yeah. I think it's also on Holland Bloorview Connect the other many policies, the substance use, the scent-free, the non-smoking, vaping policies, all of those things that are important to just refresh and remind ourselves and how we communicate that across
Right.
the organization.
So,
It's hard to see you, Stuart.
It's hard to see you. Marilyn, I want to thank you. Thank you so much for all of that, for the insight, for all the work that you and your team are doing. It's really amazing. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Stuart. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Julie for her hat.
Our next segment is called The Family View, and here we're going to have a really excellent opportunity to talk to two amazing individuals, and I'll give you a bit of a primer about the Family Advisor Committee. They're one of our flagship structures here at Holland Bloorview that provides support and advice to all levels of the organization, from the board to senior management to teams all across the hospital, on how you can integrate the family perspective into the work that we do to improve quality, to improve care based on perspectives and lived experiences. So the group is made up of 40 families and as well as staff, and they meet every single month. And this year, for Holland Bloorview Live today, I'm really excited to have the two co-chairs of the Family Advisory Committee here today. Please join me in welcoming Sam Pazilla and Alpha Khan.
Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team here. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now my whole team in. Started from the bottom, now we're here. Started from the bottom, now the whole team here. I done kept it real from the jump. Living at my mama's house, we'd argue every month.
I like the hip-hop vibe here. We've got Sam, I'm going to start with you. That song was picked with you in mind. So tell me a little bit about that and your family's journey here at Holland Bloorview.
So my journey started with a complaint. And it was a complaint to deal with my son, Lyndon. And I ended up in Kim's office. And the next thing you know, I get walked across the floor and I meet Amir. And the next thing you know, I've been on the family advisory for 5 years.
and now leading it.
So I learned pretty quickly, you don't do a lot of complaining around here. And the rest is history. So.
Can you tell me a little bit about this photo in Lyndon?
Sure. That is not the Brady Bunch. That's my current family, but we turned into the Brady Bunch. That's my son, Lyndon. He was a preemie. He was supposed to stick around till September 14th, but he showed up on July 5th, 2003, the summer of SARS. And we were actually sitting by his isolette on August 14th, 2003, if anybody remembers what happened that day, the blackout. So we saw 30 children with the life supports all shut off for a few minutes, so that was exciting. But we got him home on September 14th, but he didn't come out unscathed. Unfortunately, he was left with a brain injury. Paraventricular leukomalacia, I'll never forget that. That's one of his conditions, and as a result, globally delayed, and one of his biggest challenges is behavior. So it's been quite a challenge with Lyndon and trying to deal with some of his behaviors. So
we'll come back to you, Sam, in a second. Thank you for sharing that story of your family. Alpha, let's talk a little about you. It's a gorgeous picture of you and Junaid here. Tell me about your journey here at Holland Bloorview.
Well, actually, Junaid and I managed to come to Holland Bloorview after being at one of your satellite clinics. So we were thinking, okay, we're at the satellite clinic, and this speech language pathologist that we had at that point in time had noticed certain things that were a little bit different and kind of prompted me to say, well, you know, we're going to put in a little bit of a recommendation that he be seen, and you're going to be seen at the satellite clinic. However, when the actual letter came back to us, it was actually for Holland Bloorview itself. So we were like, oh. So we were pretty much told by the speech language pathologist that was seeing at that point in time that, wow, you basically got the best of the best. So Junaid is autistic, as well as he has ADHD and some other medical issues, but yeah.
And there was a literal and figurative sign that compelled you to join the family advisory
Yes.
group, right?
At that age and stage, Junaid was a really big runner. So what would usually happen is, you know, I would have to always make sure that I was wearing running shoes and able to catch him. So what happened when we first walked into Holland Bloorview is he kind of walked in a little bit skeptical, but really curious, and everybody was willing to kind of let him do him, and he was kind of exploratory with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But first time came in, sat down, and he didn't run. I was like, okay. Sat down, saw the sign on the wall that said, "Do you want to become a family leader?" First time around, didn't think very much of it. But the second time walking into the building and seeing the utmost joy and profound, comfort that Junaid had, I figured, you know what? I came downstairs and I'm like, yeah, I saw your sign. What do I do?
Nice.
You had a choice?
You know what?
It's
You are right. I had a choice. But
right.
You know what? After making that choice, I'm just thinking, yeah. Wow. Who knew?
wait for the fire panel. Sam, I actually want to ask you about your origin story. So the original complaint that you had, is it resolved? Do you feel now?
Oh yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy now. But it's been a 5-year journey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was handled very well, and yeah, I was happy with the results, obviously.
And now both of you, based on those very cool origin stories, are really super and extensively involved with Holland Bloorview as co-chairs of the Family Advisory Committee. So tell me about some of the projects that you've worked on and maybe some highlights. I know there are so many to choose from, but maybe you could give us a splash of color on some of the highlights.
I actually sat down last night and made a list and didn't realize how many committees I had sat on, and then I noticed, I thought of another one when Marilyn came up, but anyway. But I guess the most rewarding ones for me were, I had the opportunity through Holland Bloorview to sit on the T.C. Lynn Citizens Panel.
Oh, nice.
And that was a fairly extensive interview process and everything. But it gave me an opportunity to represent the pediatric voice at the table. So awesome. I found it very interesting how that was kind of lacking. But it was interesting working with all different diverse situations and different healthcare scenarios, and I found that really interesting. One of the things I'm involved with right now is the Joint Quality Health Safety Committee, and they've just added me to the Workplace Violence Committee, and I'm finding that going to be interesting work because Lyndon does have behaviors, and it'll be interesting to kind of get the family's perspective on how we deal with that. But the one thing I'm most proud of is the work with the mental health think tank. Mm-hmm. And some of those initiatives, because I can relate to that personally, because I think about Lyndon's journey, and I think about, if there was some way to screen him through the process so that the mental health part was picked up perhaps earlier, and also the parents' piece, the caregivers' piece, that I think is part of the same formula. We need to make sure that the caregivers are healthy to be able to provide care to their children. So I'm really proud of that work.
Thank you. You should be. Alpha, how about you? A couple highlights.
A couple highlights would be the outpatient orientation that was actually developed within the Family Advisory Committee, and what happens every month is that there's an interdisciplinary team, so you have a clinician, you have one of the client and family-centered, one of the resource specialists. Thank you for that. I'm like all over the place right now. As well as a family leader who comes in and helps really provide that warm welcome to parents who are coming into the building for the first time. Another couple that I'm really proud of would be being a part of the accreditation team last year. Yeah. So really embedding families into all the processes, just beyond, providing the opinion, but just embedding in terms of how things are done and, how we're able to look at moving the system forward in a very meaningful way. Another thing, two more, I guess, would have to say, as a result of that, I happen to be one of the first patient surveyors that was picked.
That's
there was
amazing.
also another one who came, who's Adrian from
Right.
Holland Bloorview as well, and
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you. And the list is just so long, and you've only
Yeah.
kind of scratched the surface, so thank you.
Sorry.
That's great. No, nothing to apologize for. Tell me a bit, Sam, tell me a little bit about the Family Advisory Committee. How does it work? And I mentioned that it meets every month. Tell me a little bit about the mechanics of it.
Okay, well, like you mentioned, we meet every month, and it's a fairly formalized meeting. Like, we work hard at getting an agenda together. I know there's a long list of people that want to come and speak at our meetings, and I guess that's a good problem to have.
Yes.
And it's some of the families that this organization serves. A lot of devoted families with varied lived experiences, years. We have some parents that have been showing up for 20 plus years, which I find very inspiring. And we sit on a number of committees. I don't think there's a committee that goes on in this hospital that doesn't have at least one family person on it. We advise on a lot of programs and services. We come up with some ideas. There's an education piece for us. I'm just trying to think of some of the other stuff that we do. I would say that a lot of what happens here, and I see it, and I've seen it for the last 5 years, really doesn't happen unless it's vetted through the Family Advisory Committee, and it's a great process that we lend an opinion or resource to those decisions. So it's nice to be around people who are just as passionate as you are about making changes. The great thing is, and I look to Julia, half the room is full of staff, and that's good to see, because we know that just reinforces the support that we get for our committee. So it's great work.
It is great work, and I've been on the receiving end of Amir's active management of those meetings to try to seek input when there's lots of demand for it, and so there's lots of stuff happening, fair to say. Alpha, maybe tell me about some of the priorities for this year.
Oh, well, this year we've been tasked with some really interesting projects and very great initiatives overall. The first thing that we wrote, out of two of our subcommittee goals, we're looking at establishing a virtual advisory committee. So out of that virtual advisory committee, what we're hoping to establish is the feedback from families who are not necessarily able to be embedded within the formalized family leadership program. So there's still a touch point so that they can provide us feedback in any way, shape, or form that they feel is necessary, and in ways to kind of really move forward that or improve care, as well as the services that are happening here.
Right.
The other subcommittee goal that we have going on would be to establish a technology-enabled solution. So in doing that, what we're hoping to have is either a technology solution that will enable either a care or a partnership initiative between the hospital and the family leaders, so that we can either have a virtual care type of initiative or even an actual hub which will house a community for clients and families as well.
It's amazing. So really upping the ante on the ways that people can participate.
Yeah. And last but not least, which is really, really important, near and dear to our hearts, would be the inpatient potluck that we're hoping to have this year. So this will be our first inpatient potluck that will really be featuring and making that more of a homely type environment for the clients and families who are here as inpatients.
Beautiful, beautiful work. So our time is running short, but I'll leave it as last comment. Anything else you'd like to share about your families, about your work, about the FAC that you'd like to share with the team?
No, we're always looking for new family members, and that's one of the things that continues to be a challenge. We want to be more diverse and inclusive, so that's challenging, and it'll be exciting moving forward to see whether we can really be a representation of who the families are that are serviced by Holland Bloorview.
The only thing that I'd probably add to that is that really for all staff, just for them, for those of you who are in the building who aren't necessarily able to make it to our meetings, if you're around and you have time, feel free to reach out. We can be reached at the FAC co-chair, no, FAC chair at hollandbloorview.ca, or you can also reach out to Amir, which I'm sure everybody in this building has knowledge of and knows where he is and what to do. But just really being able to connect with staff and on any types of initiatives or projects that you feel that are really important and valuable for families. We welcome that, and we want to know that you know that we're here for you and we're here for each other.
Thank you. Alpha Sam, thank you so much. It's been a real privilege to speak to you and to hear more about FAC and the
thank you.
work you do. Michael Jackson, that's a new one. Our next segment is called Behind the Scenes of Care, where we learn about different dimensions of care taking place across Holland Bloorview. And today we're going to focus in on communication and writing aids, CWAS for those who love our acronyms. To join me in learning more about CWAS, please welcome Melanie Kennedy, speech language pathologist. I love the song selection because it always gives some insight to personality. Tell me. Okay, it's ended now. Shania Twain.
Yes.
You're from Timmins.
I'm from Timmins, and so that's the major question I get as soon as anybody hears I'm from Timmins is, do you know Shania Twain?
So my first question is, do you know Shania Twain?
No, I don't. I do know a sibling of hers, but I do not know her myself, unfortunately.
All right. Now that we've got that cleared up,
yes.
Let's hear a little bit about you. How long have you been with Holland Bloorview, and how did you come to be at Holland Bloorview?
I've been with Holland Bloorview now for 10 years, celebrated just this past August. But prior to arriving at Holland Bloorview, I worked for 8 years at a children's treatment center in the Durham area.
Right.
And then I also worked for a school board, also in the Durham area, so one of the 4 school boards I actually consult to now.
Right.
And I find it interesting that throughout my entire working career, I have either been on the receiving end of communication writing aid services, or I've been the provider of those same services. So coming in with both perspectives.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit about your work as a speech language pathologist. Tell me in some detail about that.
Well, and for those of you who don't know about communication writing aids, there actually are 2 separate streams to our service. We have a writing aids stream as well as an AAC stream. So the writing aids stream is there for clients who can speak but do not have the motor capabilities to keep up with the written tasks. So they are assessed for a home writing need so they can do their homework and participate and partake in social media. On the AAC stream, which is the area that I work for, the AAC stream is actually a very specialized area of the field of a speech language pathologist.
Right.
Not everybody does it on a daily basis. And so basically the clients that I do work with either do not speak at all, or their speech isn't sufficient or efficient enough to meet their everyday communication needs.
Right.
So our CWAS team, our AAC team, is a community-based program. So most of you may know some of us, but a lot of us, like myself, am rarely in the building.
Right.
Because we live and work, most of us live and work in the areas that we serve. So outside of our initial screening appointment for all of our clients, all other visits typically occur in the community with the family at their home, in their schools, daycares, and other environments like that. And
Right.
our geographic area is fairly large, which you found out
Yes.
when we were chatting earlier.
Yeah.
So we cover the Toronto area itself, basically west of the 427. We also cover York, Simcoe, so we have therapists traveling to Penetanguishene, Orangeville. And then the area that I specifically service is the Durham area. So my east end border is in Newtonville. So basically go about almost a half hour past Bowmanville, if anybody knows where Bowmanville is.
Wow.
So that's kind of where we are.
Yeah, so that's a huge spread.
It's a large spread, but it's a very cohesive group, I find.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Tell me a little bit about the process and kind of initial assessments and follow-up appointments. A little bit about that from the client's perspective.
Okay. So we actually do have very specific referral criteria for which clients we do accept into service. And we receive our referrals from speech pathologists, occupational therapists, or our physicians from the community can make direct referrals to the service on behalf of the clients.
Right.
And we've worked really hard over the past number of years as a team to really decrease the wait list. As we all know, wait lists are the challenge for all services, and we do work very hard, and for the most part we are now at a point of no client from the point of referral to the point of a very first screening appointment, they are waiting between 95 and 120 days, which is quite rapid in the grand scheme of things. Yeah. So we're quite proud of that achievement. But basically, once the client is booked in for a screening appointment, that appointment actually happens here at Holland Bloorview. And it's basically, we have three therapists, three speech pathologists who do those assessments. And they're basically ensuring that we are at Holland Bloorview the most appropriate service for that client at that particular time. There may be other services in the community that they are more appropriate for, and then may come back to us at a later date. So if we are deemed the most appropriate service for that client at that screening, then at that immediate screening appointment, that client is booked into the appropriate geographic teams for a follow-up visit. So for me, if a client is screened and they live in the Durham, or basically the east end of Durham area, they're assigned to my specific caseload, and I have a follow-up appointment with them within 2 weeks of that date.
Okay. Right.
There are times that, depending on the complexity of the clients that we do see, our team is comprised of a speech pathologist, an occupational therapist, a CDA, or communicative disorders assistant, an ATC, which is an assistive technology consultant, so our tech support specifically for our communication aids. And any one of the four of us could be involved within the entire assessment process.
Right. So there's a big collaborative team that works together. We're hearing that, like lots of collaboration, lots of thoroughness to make sure that we're delivering on what we need. Absolutely,
because the clients we're seeing are very complex. We want to make sure we're not missing any of the avenues to support their communication.
Right.
So the assessment happens, and we determine whether or not what kind of communication system is the best for them. Once we've decided with the family, and of course the team players from the community have decided what the best option is for them, then we present the client's case to our prescription review panel, at which point we can discuss making the recommendation around what kind of communication aid what we're using.
And speaking of what type of communication aid, I know you've brought a couple of things to demo for us, right?
Yes. So we can have anywhere from low tech, so basically no technology, which is kind of what I love because this doesn't break. It doesn't die, which is what the current device I have behind us is being plugged in right now. So it can be low tech, so the clients can point to the pictures and they use their partner to sort of basically act as that voice in the interim. Or we have higher tech communication aids, which I'll just grab in a second. But these are devices, so these are more your computer-based systems that a client could potentially activate the buttons by touching it with their hands. However, a lot of the children we do see cannot use their hands to activate buttons, so that's where the OT's role comes really into play, is finding that access method. So is the child going to use a switch that they either touch with their hand, use a foot, use their head, any body part? There also are voice switches where the child can use their vocalization to activate a switch or a button. They can use a hummer. There's a multitude of options that are available, and of course we're always trying to be as innovative as possible, because our clients do always present numerous challenges that something we currently have just doesn't work, so we've got to try and figure out with our collaboration with the Bloorview Research Institute to try and find some other options for these clients.
Amazing. Do you want to show us this other device?
Hopefully it's going to work. Clients can also use their eye gaze as well to activate. So they just basically look at the screen when there's a camera involved, and they can activate the buttons as well. And of course it's decided to, there we go. So it's more dynamic in that case. So if you push a button, if I wanted to say that I want to, because I didn't get a chance to, of course it's not going to speak. Of course, it's not going to speak. Welcome to technology, which is why I really like the low tech.
So Melanie, very cool stuff, and I've had the opportunity to see it up live in action and how impactful it can be. So once you make your assessment, you make a prescription and a recommendation. So how does the equipment get to the client?
There we go. We're all ready to go now. So the equipment itself basically is filtered, because all the equipment we provide is available for funding for the families through ADP, or the Assisted Devices Program. So all devices are covered for about 75% by ADP. The residual is paid by a family or another third-party service. Right. And all the equipment that comes to any of the AAC clinics in the province is filtered through the centralized equipment pool. And they provide the equipment to the families, but they also do provide availability of equipment for clinicians ourselves to borrow, so we can complete our assessments. So whether we're attached to a clinic or not, so if we have our individual authorizer and work in the community, and I want to try something with a client, I can make that request to the centralized equipment pool for the equipment, so I can actually try it before we would move further.
Awesome. And the centralized equipment pool, or CEPP as we know it, is part of the Holland Bloorview family.
It is.
It was funded, we were actually tapped on the shoulder in 1991 to be the hub of a hub and spoke model where we're the provider to 27 clinics across the province. So it's funded through the Assistive Devices Program of the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. And we actually had a chance to go visit the CEPP program. And we got a little bit of a video we wanted to show people.
The centralized equipment pool was established in 1991 by the Assisted Devices Program of the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care to provide speech and writing aids to clients with physical disabilities across Ontario. At present, we service 27 AAC clinics, including communication writing aids at Holland Bloorview and community authorizers across Ontario.
So the favorite part of my job is actually connecting with all the different professions working in the clinic. So we work with technologists, communicative disorders assistants, speech language pathologists, and occupational therapists. And there's so much creativity in this field of augmentative communication. So connecting with the other staff, and they're learning from us and we're learning from them.
I can't say enough about our team. They really care for clients and families, and also the clinicians we service, because for the most part, that's who we deal with. We deal with the clinicians of the clinic. We don't have a tremendous amount of contact with the clients and families, but deep down, that's all we think about here at the CEPP. The team thinks about clients and families and making sure we meet their needs. The real benefit of the centralized equipment pool is its leasing program, because it's extremely flexible and comes with service and support, which is extremely beneficial to many clients because many clients have changing needs. And with leasing, they can add items on, they can remove items off. It's very seamless. The service and support is also extremely beneficial for the fact that clients will have devices that break down. They'll reach out to their local AAC clinic, and if between the clinic and the client they determine that the device requires replacement, the clinic will simply contact the centralized equipment pool. We'll send out a replacement, which the client will just simply go to their clinic, pick up, exchange the defective device for the replacement device, so it cuts down the client's downtime.
You know, I think one of the key roles that I enjoy here working at CEPP is that because we're at the forefront of sort of getting the new technology, being in this role for me personally, I'm seeing new devices and learning all the time about new equipment. And then in my clinical role, I can really see the advantage of having different devices for clients that can really help them communicate. So seeing that put into practice, so having the opportunity through CEPP to learn about all this new technology, and then actually seeing the clients use it in their everyday lives to communicate.
The centralized equipment pool is actually just about 10 minutes away. It's just down the street from On Loft Layer, close to the Costco, so very, very close. Melanie, before we let you go, I wonder if you can help us with the Spotlight Awards. Sure. And selecting one of the 245 folks who have received a Spotlight Award between June and October. Spotlight Awards are our opportunity to recognize commitment to our values, and at every staff meeting we select one of who've been selected in that period. So we have a random number generator, and someone's going to win a $75 gift card to Amazon.
So I just hit generate?
Yeah, hit generate and tell me the number.
223.
223 is Shelda Lloyd. Shelda Lloyd. And if you'd like to award a spotlight, visit HP Connect. There's a very easy process to do that. Melanie, thank you so much for your time and your expertise and insight.
Thank you.
It's been huge. Thank you. My next guest is Sandra Hawkins. She's the CEO of the Holland Bloorview Foundation. She's going to tell us about the exciting things. If she can make it up the ramp, she will tell us about some of the exciting things happening with the foundation.
There's something weird, and it don't look good. Who you gonna call?
Happy Halloween, Sandra.
Happy Halloween, Stuart.
Looking good, looking good. Sandra, you've just celebrated your 3-year anniversary. So tell me about what you've seen over the last 3 years. What's been, the biggest change that you've seen?
3 years has gone by really quickly. I think probably the biggest, most meaningful change that I've seen has been the extreme increase in really authentic partnership between the foundation and the hospital and the foundation and client families. And as a result of that partnership, we've launched so many new initiatives that are more inclusive and allow people from the community to be able to give back to Holland Bloorview. That's led to us tripling our donor base in a very short period of time, and each year setting new fundraising records. So it's been really, really exciting.
Yeah, it's been so much fun. And I understand you've made involvement at Holland Bloorview Family Fair. You've got your son Zachary.
That's right. Yeah, that picture is actually a photo of the Zacks. So my son Zachary is the one closest to me. In the middle, a Holland Bloorview client, Zachary Raymond, who is a keynote speaker at the upcoming Evening of Possibilities. And then one of my son's classmates who's also named Zach. Oh. So whenever there's an opportunity, the Zacks get their photo together. My Zach has volunteered at all the events that often it's his idea.
Often, but not always.
And there has also been, this summer, you might have seen him if you came into the foundation filling in as receptionist. Yeah. So he's gotten fully integrated into the team. Awesome. In fact, I think his Halloween costume today includes a Holland Bloorview buff as part of it.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. True integration. So he's a volunteer, super volunteer. Right. Speaking of volunteers, lots of activities where volunteers and staff have gotten involved. And tell me a little bit about some of the exciting events that have taken place recently.
Yeah, we couldn't do the majority of the things that we do at the foundation without volunteers, especially from the staff team. So recently we had the staff auction, which was put on by our incredible staff champions, a group of volunteers from all over the hospital, many of whom are in this room. We had more than 50 items contributed and raised more than $5,200 thanks to the staff auction and everybody that participated and bid. And then recently we had the Leaside Block Party, which was the first year of this event, saw more than 1,500 people from Leaside. Families come as we took Holland Bloorview beyond our walls, had the opportunity to participate in wheelchair basketball and Volt hockey and learn about Holland Bloorview, fundraise, have fun, and the place was full of Holland Bloorview staff volunteering and engaging with the community, and we couldn't be more grateful.
That's amazing stuff. And it was, even though the weather was a little cold, it was still like a packed house. It was really, truly engaging. On a slightly different track, we're on the fundraising side, we're in the middle of a $25 million campaign to expand the Bloorview Research Institute. We talked about that at one of the last times you were here. How are we doing? How's that going?
So it's exciting. We are more than halfway through our fundraising for the $25 million. So far we have 34 donations that are leadership level donations. In fact, yesterday we announced Janice Rotman gave $1 million towards the MRI. Janice has been a longtime supporter of Holland Bloorview, previously funded the Family Support Fund, Spiral Garden, Music in the Arts, Autism Fellowship, and many more. So we're really thrilled about that. We have a couple of more 7-figure gifts that we look forward to announcing in the coming weeks and months that are exciting. And later in November, we are going to be officially unveiling a new name for the East Wing at Holland Bloorview after Raymond Chang, who has given previously to Holland Bloorview before his passing, and his family made a significant gift early in the campaign in his name. And so now E-Wing will now be the Raymond Chang. So we're really excited about that.
Very cool stuff happening. And so many different things happening. I also want to talk about Dear Everybody, our social justice campaign that's aimed at eliminating disability stigma. You've had some really interesting inroads in the advertising industry where we might see inclusion a little bit more upfront in the media that we see. Tell me about that.
Well, everyone at Holland Bloorview is very aware of the public-facing campaign that we did, thanks to the amazing work of the Joint Communications and Public Engagement team. But we continue to do that work behind the scenes. So one of the things that's very important to us when we're fundraising with corporate partners is that it's true, authentic partnerships that we're building. And we ask our corporate partners that support Holland Bloorview to also live the Holland Bloorview values. That looks like a lot of different things, but one of those examples is that our corporate partners are now looking at their brand advertising. So we have a Dear Everybody agreement that we're asking major brands in Canada to sign to say that they will include or work to include 13.7% of casting in their advertising to be reflective of people with disabilities, which is representative of the population. So far, we have TD, Bank of Montreal, the Government of Ontario, several casting agencies, the Actors Union, and half a dozen advertising agencies all signed up to participate, and the momentum is growing by leaps and bounds. Our expectation is that 12 months from now, when you see ads in the community, it will look like our community. And brand advertisers that have been thinking about different definitions of diversity will now also be including disability, kids and adults in that, and that the industry will be looking at physical accessibility of shooting spaces and casting spaces and making changes in terms of how they work with talent. A great employment opportunity for people with disabilities who can be photographed and videotaped. So we're really excited about the momentum and expect to have much more to share with you about that in the coming months.
Awesome. Game changer, I love it. Finally, anything else you'd like to share with us before we have to go?
Well, we have lots of stuff coming up. On Monday, it's the Evening of Possibilities gala that we take over the cafeteria and the atrium, and are so grateful for everybody's patience during that time and for many of you who are coming out to volunteer. Holland Bloorview Rocks follows on November 18th. We have a really cool thing that we're going to be starting towards the end of November where those who like to win money at Holland Bloorview have the opportunity to do so. You'll get a chance to sign up for a regular 50-50 draw through your payroll deduction. So there'll be more information about that coming, which should be fantastic. You saw in the communication that was sent out by ENZA as part of budget planning is that once again this year the foundation annual grants are wrapped into the annual budgeting process. They're due on December 7th after you've submitted them, and in the package this year there's a great example of a well-written grant, kudos to Amin for that, from last year, so that you can see an example of what a great grant application looks like. And then after the hospital SMT selects and approves the grants, then the foundation board approves, and then we start fundraising for them. And then finally we've got Capes for Kids right around the corner.
Amazing. So much activity. Very busy. And you have a final prize?
We do. So we have a Tim Hortons gift card, and inside of, I think, is this the hat? Oh, yes. Inside this hat, we have the names of all of the current payroll donors. And our payroll donors, many of whom have been doing it for years and years and years, are the lifeblood of our fundraising program among staff at Holland Bloorview. And the winner of the gift card, okay, I don't have two, it's just one. There we go, is Lisa Zhu.
So we'll get that to Lisa. Sandra, thank you so much for everything for you and your team. Your amazing impact across the sector. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
And our time is run out. I want to thank everybody. Thanks to Greg, Elna, Sarah for all the support in making this happen. Thank you to all of our guests. Thank you to all of you for being here. There's a Halloween bash happening in the cafeteria if you want to check out the costumes. We'll see you next time. Have a safe and happy Halloween.